Hi there, it's Keith from the Evangelical Free Church, Stony Stratford, and we're continuing our series in the Gospel of Mark, and today we're in chapter 12 and verses 41 to 44. Jesus is people watching. He's observing people casting their gifts into the receptacles that were in the court of the women. Now it's interesting, isn't it, that he's not impressed by people putting in loads of money. We read that in verse 41, many rich people threw in large amounts. But then something catches his attention, verse 42. But a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth only a fraction of a penny. Now that gets Jesus' attention. So much so that we read in verse 43, he calls his disciples to him and says, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has put into the treasury more than all the others. Now, how so? What does he mean by that? Well, quite simply this, verse 44. They gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on. Now, if we think about the rich people here, these were people of influence. These were people who perhaps could make a bit of a show of giving. It didn't really cost them much. But Jesus sees in this poor widow love and devotion. Cast your mind back to last week, the passage before this. Jesus attacked the teachers of the law because they loved their standing before the people. They loved the privilege that it gave them. The point Jesus is making, she loved God. That's the key thing here. When my mother died, quite early when we came to Stony Stratford, within a year and a half, she'd been suffering for dementia for some time. But when we went to the funeral and after that, many people wrote to us. And we knew that Mum had been very selfless in what she did. But the stories that came out that even we had never heard of the kindness she'd shown people. And why was that? Well, I know my mother. She loved God. And this widow loved God. No show, no drawing attention to what one was doing. Just sheer and utter devotion. Now there's a point here, isn't there? Our standing means little before God. But our relationship to him, to Jesus, matters so much. It is everything, isn't it? Why so? Well, Paul, when he was writing to the Corinthian church, says this, for you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sakes he became poor, so that through his poverty, that you, through his poverty, might become rich. Here's the thing, isn't it? Jesus gave up everything. Just in a sense like this widow did. Why? Because of his love for us. He extended grace to us. Now, grace again is undeserved, isn't it? We don't bring anything to our grace, to grace. It's given to us. There's another verse, Ephesians 2, verse 8. It's by grace you've been saved through faith. And this is not of yourselves. It is a gift of God. God gives generously to us. And Jesus, by his sacrifice on the cross, has given us the most generous of gifts. We can come into relationship with him. We should, by rights, show love back to him because he first loved us. Thanks for listening.